What's going on, everybody? It's that time of year, my favorite time of year, springtime. We're back home in northern Minnesota and chasing smallmouth on Lake Mille. This is my what's on my deck for the month of May, and we're talking all smallmouth. Again, you know, this applies for a lot of your northern glacial clear lakes that are chock full of smallmouth. When you talk about May, you got both pre-spawn and you got some spawn. We were a little bit ahead of the game, and now we are into a pretty traditional cold front for northern Minnesota, but it does come here at the end of May. Fish were just starting to pull up. Now they're kind of pulling back off, and again, it's the perfect time to kind of show you what's on my deck in the month of May. Mostly, I'm trying to go for pre-spawners. That's one of my favorite things. I also like post-spawners too, because they get to eating insects and mayflies and stuff, but I really like the pre-spawn bite. So let's kick it off there. You can't fish for pre-spawn smallmouth without throwing a jerkbait. I have a nice mix of rods right now, from my own personal ones to the ones that I'm guiding with. Kind of got a good of some active stuff, so you guys can definitely try it out, the stuff that I like, and give you kind of different price points from, you know, everything's pretty mid-range to upper level. Right here I'm throwing a jerkbait. I love throwing a jerkbait right away this time of year. It's great for the pre-spawn, from ice out all the way up to the spawn. Even this will pull fish off of beds. You know, it's a great way to make a fish bite when they're ornery and they're up on top of the reef. Also an excellent way to search, move a lot of water. And a lot of stuff what I'm looking for is those sharp breaks, those areas where those fish are moving up to the shallow water, but they're not quite there yet, and the jerkbait will get it done. Throwing a Megabass Vision 110 +1 jerkbait. I got Owner STX trebles on. These are the green pack ones. I'm using a size 5, followed by 2 number 6s on the back. That helps the bait just sink down just a little bit more and keep that nose pointed down good. I'm throwing 10 or 12. This one's actually got 12-pound Seaguar Invizx fluorocarbon. Invizx just, it casts so well. I'm using a Shimano Metanium DC reel. This is the HG, it's a 7-speed. I also got this exact same combo with a 8-speed. I actually like that a little bit better, but I grabbed the 7-speed. Sometimes I do a little bit of cranking with this one too. And then I'm using a Shimano Expride, and this is the 610 medium action. Just an awesome jerkbait and rod. And again, if I can throw a jerkbait all day for smallies, I'm gonna do it. That's the first one up. What's next? The tube. I'm throwing a Get Bit Baits tube with a Get Bit Baits tube jig. This one's an 1/8 ounce. I switch it up. You know, we started out pre-spawn. We were out there at 8 to 10. I had like a 1/4 ounce on, but I always am going to have a tube on the deck of my boat. This is the 2.75 inch, and I'm just matching the hatch this time of year. Your crawfish are small, your perch are small, the fish are a little bit finicky, kind of need to have a little bit of a finesse presentation at times, so that 2.75 tube is awesome. Come later in the year and into the fall, I'm going to bump it up to a 4 inch to try to match that hatch, and then as fish are feeding up for, you know, to get ready for winter, the end of the year, they're going to be looking for bigger baits. The rod I'm using, this is a Loomis IMX Pro. It's a 7-1 medium action. It's the 852S jig worm rod. I have these from the IMX Pro all the way up to the NRX Plus. Awesome rod, wacky rig, Nico rig, in this case a tube, any of that kind of stuff. A swim bait, awesome setup. I'm using a Shimano Stradic. This is the 2500 HG. This is 10-pound Power Pro SSv2 braided line to a 10-pound Seaguar Invizx fluorocarbon leader. It's a perfect little setup. That little tube jig from Get Bit Baits fits the 2.75 perfect. Definitely check them out. They make a lot of good kind of smallmouth candy that we like to use. And this right here is an excellent setup. I've always said I've never met a smallmouth that wouldn't eat my tube. If I could only have one bait, it would probably be a tube. We got the hair jig, the marabou, the fluff. This is the Outkast tackle, Feider fly. This is the 1/8 ounce version. This is black and purple. I'm going to switch between black, green, brown, red in the pre-spawn. I love the wine, the burgundy color. I'm using the Loomis NRX. This is the previous model. They just released NRX Plus. We will definitely get into that. I'm currently waiting on my 901 to show up. You can see I actually cracked this and had to fix it up. But this rod I have caught a lot of smallmouth on over the last 4 or 5 years. Pre-spawn smallies and post-spawn smallies throwing the fly. You know, my setup, the rod is super important because this thing's so small, you know? I mean, it's amazing that smallmouth can see that. They attack it both pre-spawn when the water is just kind of cooler, and then again at the same time during the spawn, you can pull fish off of beds with it. It's got a ton of draw power, and at the same time post-spawn, I'm also going to have it in my hand as we start to deal with all the mayfly hatch and fish fly hatches, which we're going through right now. The 901, again, critical. I think think this is the best hair jig rod on the market, is the 901. It casts the furthest at 7.6. It's a medium light action. It casts far, and at the same time, it's got a ton of feel, but every single fish that bites is coming in the boat. I swear to you, like 98% of them, if I get the bite on the Feider fly, I'm gonna land that fish. I'm using a Shimano Exsence. This is a 4000. This is the MXG, my favorite spinning reel on the market. They just introduced this in a new model, which I'm gonna be showing you in just a sec. But pre-spawn from ice out all the way to the 4th of July, I'm definitely gonna have me a Feider fly on my deck. Next one up, this is going to be a staple in my hand all year, 365 days a year. If I'm fishing for smallmouth and can, if the ice isn't, you know, covering the lakes, I'm going to have a Ned rig on my boat. I like the Ned rig because I have more control of it. So I'm using Lowrance Active Target. I'm using it a lot. I'm seeing little schools of fish this spring as we're rolling around. Maybe I'm guiding, you know, they're fishing something. I'm seeing these schools, and a Ned rig is awesome for me just to play with them, for me to see them. If they're on the bed, you know, I can pick them off. And again, they're feeding up. They're on the edges of those reefs. They're getting ready to move up, and they're eating crawdads. My favorite setup is actually one that I helped design in the head. This is the brand new 1/4 ounce Outkast tackle perfect Ned head. The Ned head has been out for a couple years now. I know it's getting quite popular with some serious smallmouth anglers and just bass fanatics alike. This is the new 1/4 ounce. It just came out. I'm going to be using this mostly, I thought, later in the year, but again, it's awesome for just pinpoint casts. If I see one moving on my active target, I can hit it. Bed fishing, it would be ideal. I'm not really using this setup much for bed fishing right now, mostly just if I see some fish, but later in the year when I start dropping on them, I'm definitely going to be going with that 1/4 ounce head. I'm using the 10,000 Fish Sakushi bug. That's by Ketchco Company. I love this thing. It's got that same style, you know, this is Stretch X, I think they call it, similar to that of Elastec or any of those other ones out there. It's very buoyant. The perfect Ned head being round like that always allows the bait to flip back up in their face. That is the key. This one looks like a little crawdad. Great color. This is coffee craw. It's a phenomenal bait here on Mille and anywhere where they got crawdads, they got a lot of orange in them. My setup for this is my favorite, hands down. Spinning rod, I use this as my utility rod. I use it for almost everything. It's the Loomis NRX 872S jig worm rod. That's a 7.3 medium action. It's got a fast tip, but a ton of backbone behind it, so it really drives that hook home on the Ned rig. I'm using a Shimano Exsence 4000, same one I had over there, 10-pound Power Pro SSv2 braid, and I'm using on this one actually an 8-pound Seaguar Tatsu fluorocarbon leader, quite a long leader. A lot of my compact fishing, not casting, reeling with trebles, you know, flipping a jig, stuff like this. I'm really liking that Tatsu. It's tough line, it doesn't break, and it's just real quality good stuff. So that's my setup for one of the Ned rigs, but I will always have a Ned rig on my boat when I'm smallie fishing. Let's get into one of my favorite new setups. Man, I've waited a long time to be able to talk about these rods. They had been in production for a while. We had been able to test them. I'm sure COVID definitely maybe slowed it down just a little bit on when they were supposed to release. So we have been silent about them for a long time, trying to keep them out of the public's eye, and at the same time I finally can get it out there, show it off, and actually use it a whole bunch and not worry about letting the cat out of the bag. And this is the brand new Loomis NRX Plus rod. This is a NRX Plus 852S jig worm rod. That's a 7.1 medium action. I talked about this rod in the IMX Pro. It's perfect for a lot of things, Nico rigs, wacky worms. In this case, I'm throwing a little GoldenEye swim bait head on it. It's the Outkast tackle GoldenEye swimmer. This little 1/8 ounce version, green pumpkin, I'm throwing a Postspawn Exo Swim on the back. I like this little perchy color this time of the year. This setup is awesome. This time of year, smallies love it. Fish eat fish. I talk about it all the time on my social media, and this is a perfect little rod for tossing around the GoldenEye, the Outkast tackle GoldenEye. This is the perfect setup for it. This right here, the brand new Shimano Exsence 4000. This is the new version. Excited to get this. Exsence is my favorite reel. If there's only one I could ever use again, that would be the one. I think they're bulletproof, they're light. The 4000s fit everything that I want to do in bass fishing, and when my money's on the line, this is the one I'm throwing. The new NRX Plus, can't talk about it enough. It's got Spiral X technology now added on to what was already a multi-taper design that G Loomis is pumping out for a while, what they're known for doing. The addition of Spiral X, which is kind of a Shimano technology, but still built in Washington. They kind of brought the best of both worlds to that. And I think you're going to be seeing me throw a lot more G Loomis rods in the future and pushing those a lot more. I've kind of been back and forth between the G Loomis and the Shimano line in the past, but now I kind of got it all in one package. And I have been a diehard G Loomis dude since I was a young kid. I've been into the G Loomis line, and again, they just keep pushing the bar higher, and they blew away my expectations with this new NRX Plus. Again, 10-pound Power Pro SSv2 braided line, and on this one, I think I'm running an 8-pound Seaguar Invizx fluorocarbon leader because I'm casting it and I'm reeling it. I'd switch it between Tatsu too, but I kind of go back and forth when I'm casting and reeling. The new NRX Plus. Awesome. Let's stick with the pre-spawn and also talking post-spawn. As fish are moving up and they're staging, they want to eat something big. Once they commit to the reef, man, they're not eating. You know, they're up there to spawn. That's what they're going to do. Sure, they'll bite your bait off the bat. I understand all that, but most likely they're going to spit it off. They're not really doing much eating. But as they're coming and as they're going, they definitely are. And one way to attack a big bass, especially on Lake Mille, is going to be either a football jig, or in this case, I was just throwing like a biffle style head. This is a Strike King tungsten. It's a 1/2 ounce head. It allows me to put my own hook, and I love these owner extra wide gap jungle hooks. This is the 3/0. It fits this bait perfect. This bait is actually a new one I started playing with. It's from Ketchco Company. It's from Carl's Baits. I loved the colors that it came in for here. Again, we have Rusty Cross, but this thing has just a ton of flapping power on it. So when I'm dragging this thing around on either a football head or on a biffle style head, it just produces big bites. When those fish go post spawn, I'm going to mess them up again on that as they go out there and start feeding up on those big, bigger crawdads. Again, rocking the NRX Plus. You can see right here, I'm kind of confused. So I always put my stuff up here, but G Loomis definitely introduced a lot of new components in here. The new reel seat is sweet, but also put the hook keepers down here towards the bottom so they're out of your way and you're not hooking stuff onto them. I love that feature. For the rod that I'm throwing on this is my favorite casting rod in the NRX line. They brought it back in the NRX Plus, which is what this one is, the NRX Plus 873 Carolina rig rod. Says it's Carolina rig rod. It's good for that. It's also a phenomenal structure, jig rod, any of that kind of stuff. If I'm casting and dragging something offshore, I'm definitely throwing the 873. I am using the Shimano Metanium. This is the 8-to-1, the XG. Again, I want to pick up line and pick up line quick, and I'm using straight 15 Seaguar Tatsu fluorocarbon. I like 15-pound on my football jigs. It's enough, you know, I got to watch it with the zebra mussels and keep on it, but I think it just gives the bait a little bit better action. And I've talked about this before on all my last ones. I love with the Metanium, and for most all my fishing, I'm going to try to do the switch over into it. There's still places for the Corrado for sure that I like, and the Chronarch and other baits, other reels like that, but the Metanium is the deal. I love that rod. Let's talk about the spy bait. This is going to come a little bit more post-spawn. I did get some bites last year. I haven't been doing a heck of a lot on it now, but as those fish are kind of getting zombie-like on those flat, calm, sunny days like what we had earlier today, flat, calm, those pre-spawners like to get in a little group, and they sit up there, and once they see you, it's over. But if you remember where they are, you can come back and make a long cast, and the Duo Realis spy bait is my choice. This is the perch color. I got size 8 STXs. I love that owner makes the size 8 STX hook. I put that on there. At the same time, I'm using again a brand new NRX Plus. This is the 902 SJR rod. The 902, awesome for spy bait. You can throw a hair jig on that rod too. You can also do some long casting drop shot stuff, lighter Ned rig stuff, lighter Nico rig stuff, you know, further offshore, but I love it for the spy bait. Again, it's a 7.6 medium action, a soft medium action. And for the reel, I'm using Shimano 4000 twin power. Sweet reel, it's got a big spool on it, and I run green line. This is straight Power Pro, regular Power Pro, 8-pound test, and I'm running in green. You know, I'm expecting that I'm throwing this bait past fish, and I'm going to have little schools of them, let's say 10 of them. Well, that's 20 eyeballs in that school, and I'm going to end up swimming this thing, which has a ton of draw power on it, through that school. I'm expecting to get 1, maybe 2 bites before they're going to follow back to the boat. boat. So I like that green line as opposed to the chartreuse line because I am keeping it up, fishing relatively shallow this time of year. As these fish start to push off now, like some of them are doing, and get into that post-spawn mode, they're going to be looking up, they're going to be eating little perch, they're going to be feeding up, looking for mayflies and stuff, and the spy bait is a great way to get a finicky post-spawn fish to bite. This setup right here is pretty perfect and ideal when throwing a spy bait. All right, I got 2 more to go, and they're pretty much similar. You know, we're talking end of May, getting into June, the smallies are definitely pulling up on beds, and you can catch mighty fine smallmouth on beds. Generally, always you're going to catch the male. The females are what I'm trying to catch. They're hanging in that area. I'm using a lot of these baits, the Feider fly, the spy bait, the Ned rig, the swimmer, to try to catch those fish as they're coming and going, but the males will definitely be up on the nest. So you got to talk about it. It's a good way to put fish in the boat. And this right here has been doing some work in our guide trips when we have been up shallow. This is a G Loomis 852S jig worm rod. We talked about this before. Again, the versatility of this rod is awesome. It's a 7-1 medium action. I'm throwing the new 1/4 ounce Outkast tackle perfect Ned head, and this is just a little modified Sakoshi bug in white, and that's so I can see it. So this is a straight up bedding setup. Like, I'm looking at the fish, I can see the fish, I need to get that fish in the boat, want to catch them. This is going to be the setup that I'm going to be using to do that. And the 1/4 ounce Ned head is going to be perfect because I actually like a drop shot works good too, don't get me wrong, but I love a Ned head because I have a lot of control with it. If I got to bump the fish a little bit, if I want to swim it past and kill it quick and, you know, try to initiate a reaction strike from the fish, or just keep it planted on a deeper bed, or I love finding deeper beds. When I do that, I wouldn't want that 1/4 ounce peel to just get down there, get in the bed. They're not going to eat it out of the bed. It just has to go in there, and the 1/4 ounce is going to help me do that. And I'm using the new 3000 Shimano van for this. Just came out, you know, a year ago, last year. Initially, we were out here actually filming for it, and I fell in love with this reel. It's awesome. It's similar to what we knew from a CI4, but definitely beefed up. It's super duper light. Great setup. I'm using 8-pound Power Pro SSv2 braided line, and I'm using a 10-pound Seaguar Tatsu fluorocarbon leader. A little bit more because, again, I'm throwing it in a nest. I expect the fish not to eat it for food, but because it's ornery and it just wants to get it out of its nest. The other setup is going to be very similar to this, but not so similar at all. And it is an ice rod, and this is my flogger rod. This is a 40-inch Shimano Sedona. I'm actually waiting for my G Loomis ones to show up. G Loomis just introduced some new ice fishing rods to the market. They got a 42-inch that I think will be ideal for this. And why am I using this? Because when I'm using a flogger by myself, idling around looking for deeper bedded fish, utilizing a flogger to see them 8, 10, 12, maybe even deeper. And again, I'm going to use that same setup. I don't want to mess around. I got a 1/4 ounce Outkast tackle perfect Ned head and that same Sakoshi bug, just modified. I just clipped it from the one you saw before that had the appendages look like a craw. I just leave these on there right there, and it's all this. This way I have full control. A tube would be a great option, but a tube is like a fumbled football and you never really know where it's going to go when it spirals. A Ned rig is going to fall straight on the bed, and I have full control over it at all times. Again, the flogger setup just kind of helps me as I'm looking through the tube. I can actually use this rod and drop it down there and fish for it. When I get the bite, I push the tube out of the way, I set the hook. A heck of a lot more efficient for me than trying to use a 7-foot rod and still try to manage where the boat's spot locked, utilizing the flogger and all that all at the same time. If it's just me talking to one of my guide clients through a bedded fish, then I'm looking through the flogger and they're going to use that you know, this bigger setup right here to do the job as I talk them through. But if I got to be the one to do it by myself, this is the rod I'm going to use. Again, this is a Shimano Sedona, and this is a Shimano Stradic 2500. I've actually qualified for the Cup on Lake Champlain using a setup similar to this. Caught all 15 of my bass, or 10 of my bass. Would have been, yeah, 10 of my bass. Cashed a check, made the Cup, and I did it all with a ice fishing, with this actual ice fishing rod right here, except I was using a 4000 Exsence. I thought I'd trim it down a little bit with the 2500, but the Stradic is kind of perfect. 8-pound Power Pro SSv2 braid and a 10-pound Seaguar Tatsu fluorocarbon leader, and that is my official setup this time of year in May. What's on my deck? Next month we'll be coming at you in June we'll be putting some largemouth in. I think we'll be at the Potomac flipping milfoil. It's one of my favorite things to do, something we do here in Minnesota. I grew up actually learning how to bass fish first ever with largemouth and milfoil, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. Then we head up to the St. Lawrence River, and we'll be back with the smallie stuff, maybe a little bit different presentation, so definitely tune in. Please subscribe to my channel, Josh Douglas Fishing. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Josh Douglas Fishing, and again, share this kind of stuff. I know there's a lot of people that like it, going through everything, not hiding nothing from anybody, just showing you the real deal stuff that we're using out here to catch some fish, and I hope it helps you out on your next outing. Until then, I hope you tune in. Can't wait to see you next time, Tight Lines.